You don't remember these songs because they were great. You remember them because they were there. On car radios, in grocery stores, through thin walls and open windows. These weren't anthems. They didn't define the decade. But if you lived through the 1960s, they never fully left you. This is not a countdown of classics. It's a test of memory. If these songs feel familiar, you didn't discover the 60s later. You survived them. Number 10. Smile a Little Smile for Me. The Flying Machine, 1969.
Should accept this time he's gone for good.
By 1969, the 1960s were already falling apart. Woodstock was days away. Vietnam was still on the news every night, and pop music was splitting into two directions: louder, heavier, angrier. This song went the other way. Smile a Little Smile for Me was soft, polite, and emotionally cautious. It wasn't about love. It was about letting go without making a scene. The melody floated. The harmonies felt borrowed from an earlier, safer decade. And that was the point. Adults heard comfort. Teenagers heard something already outdated. But everyone heard it. Constantly.
Smile a little smile for me.
It played in supermarkets, dentist offices, and family sedans. It was the sound of endings disguised as optimism. No protest, no rebellion, just a gentle request to stay pleasant while things quietly ended. If you remember this song, you remember the moment when the 60s stopped smiling back. Number 9. Little Bit of Soul, The Music Explosion, 1967. By 1967, the word soul was everywhere. It didn't always mean Black American music. Sometimes it just meant attitude, or at least the illusion of it. Little Bit of Soul wasn't gritty, it wasn't dangerous, it was garage rock cleaned up for AM radio. The organ riff was catchy, repetitive, impossible to ignore. The lyrics were vague, almost disposable. But the chorus stuck, not because it said something deep, but because it didn't ask you to think at all. This was youth culture in a safe package. Rebellion without risk, soul without history. Adults tolerated it, kids danced to it, and radio stations played it relentlessly. You didn't seek this song out. It found you. At school dances, at pool parties, through cheap speakers that distorted the organ into something harsher than it really was. If you remember Little Bit of Soul, you remember when the 60s flirted with edge, but made sure it stayed harmless. And somehow that made it unforgettable. Number 8. Different Drum, The Stone Ponies' Feet. Linda Ronstadt, 1967. Different Drum didn't sound like a hit trying to be loud. It sounded like a quiet refusal. In 1967, most pop songs still asked women to wait, follow, or soften themselves. This one didn't. Sung by a young Linda Ronstadt, the song delivered a message that felt gentle, but landed hard. You can't make me stay. I'm not built for your expectations. There was no anger in her voice, no drama, just clarity. That calmness is what made it unsettling. For kids growing up in the late 60s, this was the first time a breakup song didn't feel apologetic. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. The arrangement stayed folk pop safe, almost polite. But the idea underneath was radical for its time. Love doesn't obligate obedience. You heard it on the radio and didn't think much of it, but years later you realized this song planted a seed. If you remember Different Drum, you remember the moment pop music quietly learned how to say no. Number 7. Time Won't Let Me. The Outsiders, 1966. Time Won't Let Me sounded like urgency wrapped in sunshine. Released in 1966, it hit the radio with a bright beat, hand claps, and harmonies that felt almost celebratory. But listen past the tempo. This was a song about desperation. The narrator isn't confident, he's racing. Time won't let me wait, not because love is certain, but because it might disappear.
Time won't let me.
For 60s kids, this was one of the first pop songs that captured emotional panic without slowing down. No dramatic pauses, no sad melody, just a sense that something important was slipping away right now. That contrast mattered. The song trained a generation to associate happiness with pressure. Move fast. Decide now. Don't hesitate. You danced to it without realizing it was teaching you how to fear time itself. Years later, that feeling makes sense. The mid-60s moved fast. Socially, politically, culturally, everything felt temporary, even love. If you remember Time Won't Let Me, you remember when pop music learned to run instead of reflect. Number 6. Expressway to Your Heart. Soul Survivors, 1967. This song felt busy. Horns pushing forward. Rhythms snapping into place. Everything moving at once. Expressway to Your Heart didn't sound like romance. It sounded like traffic. Released in 1967, it blended soul, pop, and commercial polish into something relentlessly energetic. The metaphor was obvious. Love as infrastructure, connection as motion, and it worked. You heard it everywhere. Car radios, city streets, record stores with the door open. For 60s kids, this was the sound of modern life speeding up, cities expanding, highways multiplying, everything designed to move faster. The song promised access, a shortcut, a way in. But there was no depth, and that was fine. This wasn't a song about knowing someone, it was about reaching them. If you remember this song, you remember when music started to sound like the world around you. Crowded, kinetic, and always in motion. It didn't need to last. It only needed to pass through. Number 5. Dirty Water, The Standells, 1966.
I'm gonna tell you a story.
Dirty Water didn't try to sound good. It sounded close. Released in 1966, it was rough, echo-heavy, and slightly unhinged, a garage rock record that felt like it was recorded in a basement with the door half open. The song wasn't really about water, or Boston, or geography at all. It was about attitude. Snarling vocals, sloppy rhythm. A sense that cleanliness, musical or cultural, wasn't the point anymore. For 60s kids, this felt like permission.
I wanna tell you about my town.
Permission to like something imperfect. Permission to sound regional. Permission to not smooth the edges. Adults heard noise. Kids heard identity. It wasn't polished enough to age into a classic. It wasn't refined enough to be taken seriously later, but it stuck. You remember where you were when you first heard it. A local station, a cheap radio, a song that felt like it belonged to somewhere, not everywhere. If you remember Dirty Water, you remember when rock briefly smelled like sweat and concrete, before it learned how to clean itself up. Number 4. In the Year 2525, Zager and Evans, 1969.
The year 2525.
In the Year 2525 didn't sound like pop. It sounded like a warning delivered calmly. Released in 1969, at the very end of the decade, the song imagined a future stripped of humanity. Machines making decisions, people reduced to functions, emotion quietly erased. There was no anger in the voice, no urgency, just inevitability. That tone mattered. By then, optimism had burned out. The assassinations had happened. The war dragged on. Trust in progress was cracking. This song reached number 1 not because it was comforting, but because it matched the mood. For 60s kids, it wasn't science fiction. It was projection. A sense that technology and authority were accelerating faster than human values could keep up. The melody was simple. The delivery was flat, almost lifeless, and that made it unsettling. It didn't invite debate. It assumed collapse. If you remember In the Year 2525, you remember when the future stopped sounding hopeful and started sounding unavoidable. Number 3. Let's Live for Today, The Grassroots, 1967.
Think of all the worries people seem to find.
This song sounded like freedom, a steady beat, a confident vocal, a chorus that encouraged immediacy. Let's Live for Today became an anthem almost by accident. It was catchy enough for radio, but vague enough for everyone to project their own meaning onto it. For some, it was about love. For others, escape. For many 60s kids, it was a response to uncertainty. The future felt unreliable in 1967. Draft notices arrived without warning. Plans could disappear overnight. So the message resonated. Don't wait. Don't promise tomorrow. Take what you can now. Adults often heard irresponsibility. Kids heard survival. The song wasn't urging recklessness. It was acknowledging fragility. That distinction mattered. Its optimism wasn't naive. It was defensive. A way of pretending control in a decade that kept proving you didn't have it. If you remember Let's Live for Today, you remember when living in the moment wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was a coping mechanism. Number 2, 96 Tears. Question Mark and the Mysterians, 1966. 96. Tears didn't arrive polished. It arrived direct. A relentless Farfisa organ. A flat, almost confrontational vocal. No attempt to sound pretty. Released in 1966, it was garage rock stripped to its emotional core. This wasn't heartbreak wrapped in poetry. It was resentment counting the cost. The narrator isn't sad. He's bitter. Most pop songs still framed pain as something to endure quietly. 96. Tears did the opposite. It kept score. For 60s kids, this was recognition. Life wasn't fair. Love wasn't gentle. And pretending otherwise felt dishonest. The song's minimalism made it feel personal, like it could have been written by anyone in the room. Adults dismissed it as crude. Critics ignored it. Radio played it anyway. If you remember 96 Tears, you remember when emotion didn't need sophistication to feel real. It just needed a voice and something to say. Number 1, Green Tambourine. The Lemon Pipers, 1967. Green Tambourine sounded like a dream you didn't question. Bright percussion, childlike melody, lyrics that felt playful but slightly off. Released in 1967, it reached number 1 without ever explaining itself. No story, no message, just an atmosphere. For 60s kids, that was enough. The song didn't demand interpretation. It invited surrender. Adults heard nonsense. Kids heard permission. Permission to enjoy something purely for how it felt. There was something hypnotic about it. The repetition, the rhythm, the sense that meaning wasn't required to participate. Looking back, it feels like the last moment of innocence before things turned heavier, before messages became urgent, before music needed to say something. If you remember Green Tambourine, you remember when pop music could be strange, cheerful, and pointless, and nobody felt the need to apologize for it. It wasn't deep, it wasn't lasting, but it stayed with you. And that's why it belongs at number 1.